everyone, and welcome to another edition of PYA Crew Spotlight. My name is Ria. I am your host, and I'm very pleased to welcome Khara Pierre. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good, Ria. I'm good, thank you.
Now, let me ask you, what got you into yachting?
Well, it was actually a friend of mine. A yacht was being built in my hometown, and he had met the crew and he got invited on and he'd got offered a job. And 6 months down the line, he then said, Khara, this is life-changing. You need to do this. So then he helped me do my courses. And then luckily, as a greenie, I was taken on that yacht.
Nice. So it helps to have contacts then.
Yeah, it definitely does. It definitely does. But I'm not saying that would, it wouldn't stop you getting a job if you didn't know people. But the contacts is always a great thing.
Now, how long were you actively in the industry?
In between like 12 and 14 years, having a little bit of a respite in between that.
And what is your position on board?
A purser. But I've actually done every position in the interior. So I've had experience in all of it.
What was the hardest part of that job?
It's the unexpected changes that can happen within a second, like say, for example, you can plan a whole itinerary to Canada. This is like a true story. Plan it, restaurants, but do this big trip, and then all of a sudden it will be like, oh no, we want to go somewhere else. So then you have to do the whole thing again for another place. And you just got to be so used to the change and so used to adapting and dealing with pressure, because people want it, things like that. You've got to be able to produce that for them.
What is a purser? Can you explain that to those out there that aren't aware or perhaps looking to get into the industry and want to know what a purser does?
Yeah, so a purser manages pretty much most of the administration on board. It's visas, accounts, crew travel. You deal with all the administration, all the planning, logistics, port clearance, port control, and then you do the concierge side of things. So you deal with all the guests, their requests, where they want to go, and their logistics. So cars, booking tours or whatever they like, really. So you're sort of at the top with the captain, and of course you liaise with the captain with all of it, but you are also the main coordinator and the person who should communicate all what is going on, so there's not a mess up, down the line.
So I guess in relation to, your friends and the other industries that they have gone to, how do you feel yachting enriched your life?
Oh, well, where do I start? Like the travel, the people you meet, the sort of situations you go through where you're like, I did that. It's hard, there's hard aspects to it, but the sort of self-fulfillment and what you achieve is amazing. You grow as a person, and I'm not going to lie, the money, like, I don't think I would have ever been able to buy a house without having yachting to help me with that. Like working in the UK is hard, like, to get a good paid job. And yeah, it's been amazing. I've got friends for life, like best friends, and I've got a lot, and and all these people have helped me grow. And yeah, I can't begin to be like, the thankfulness I have for yachting is, yeah, it doesn't stop.
Well, what tips or bits of advice would you have for those that are considering taking that plunge and saying, you know what, I really do want to get into yachting? What would you tell them?
Right, so there's a process of getting into yachting. It's really, really good, like we touched upon earlier, to know people in the industry, but then there's different platforms you're able to use, and it's just like straight off the bat, it's a really nice presented CV, a very smart picture. Like, you can Google information on how to do a yachting CV, and I'm working with a recruitment company, and you know, it's so important that first impression, your CV it's the first impression for agents, and then it will be forwarded to the yachts. There's a lot of competition, so you know, it's really taking the time in presenting yourself well, presenting your CV well, and you know, go to the locations. I know because of COVID, it's been a real nightmare for people, and it's a real shame because, you know, I can see the greenies trying to come in, and people do want to give green crew a chance, and but the travel restrictions have been difficult. But it is generally, without COVID, it's getting to those places like Antibes, like Fort Lauderdale, Palmer, and getting in the mix and meeting people. And you know, it is all about first impressions. If you go to these sort of crew places in these areas, and you know, you chat to people, you have an evening out with them, and it goes from there, you know. And as long as you carry yourself well, and you know, you're determined, I think, yeah, I think you'd be able to get on board a boat.
One question that I do want to ask you, however, is because you are now associated with a recruitment company, would you suggest those that are trying to get into the industry to be very, very careful about what they post up on their Facebook page?
Oh, do you know what? Absolutely. Like, I see it on groups and things like that. And, you know, it is, you put something on the internet and that's it. You know, it can't be taken away. And working with a recruitment company and seeing these sorts of posts, you know, negative, positive, like everyone's entitled to their own opinion. And even if it is arguing against something or someone, you can always do it in a very articulate way. But sometimes people just absolutely go on one, and yeah, you just got to be so careful what you put up on the internet. And I'd suggest to be careful with that, you know, like especially, you know, on your Facebook. And as a purser, you know, like we're looking at crew to employ, we go on people's Facebooks, you know, you're trying to understand a bit of what someone's like, you know, because you can only get so much from an email or a telephone call. But these social media platforms, you know, you're putting this out for the world to see, so you should really be careful, definitely.
Yes, well, that is something that I did want to address, because I've had people approach me as well talking about getting into the industry, and the first thing I do is I check out their Facebook pages and their Instagram, and there are times where, you know, the first response is you need to clean up your history.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Khara, it's been an absolute pleasure to host you here again today.
Yeah, do you know what? It's always lovely to chat to you, Ria. Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, you've been listening to Khara Pierre. This has been another episode of the PYA Crew Spotlight. My name is Ria. I have been your host. We'll see you again next week.